Okay, this set of notes is on writing equations of lines. In order, all of the equations that you're going to write in my class are going to be in slope-intercept form. Okay, which is y equals mx plus b. So all we need to write the equation of a line is just m, which is the slope, and b, which is the y-intercept. So we usually find slope first, not always, but usually. Okay. All right. 3 different examples. Example 1. I am looking at a graph. And this is an example of a problem where I'm going to find the y-intercept first, only because it's super easy. And it is right here. You just look at where it crosses the y-axis. It crosses the y-axis at positive 4. So I'm going to write down that b equals positive 4. All right, in order to find the slope from a graph, I need 2 points. And so what that means is I have to find 2 points that line up on corners exactly. So I've got my y-intercept that I already know falls perfectly on a corner. The next closest one I see is this one right here. So I'm going to use that point as well. And now I just need to look for the rise and the run between these 2 points. So to get from one point to the other, I am rising down 1 space. So I'm going to label that -1. And I'm running to the right 2 spaces. So I'm going to label that +2. Okay, slope is rise over run. So I'm going to write over here that my slope, or my m, equals -1 over 2. I just want to mention now, if you used a different point, like if you had used this point over here, you're still going to get the same answer because now your rise is down 2 and your run is over 4. So -2 over 4 would still reduce to be -1/2. So even if you don't pick the same 2 points as me, it should always reduce to be the same thing. All right, I'm basically done. Other than I got to answer the question, I need to write the equation in slope-intercept form. I haven't done that. So my answer is just going to be y equals -1/2 x plus 4. Easy, done. As soon as you have m and b, you plug them into slope-intercept form, you are done. All right, example 2, I'm giving you 2 points. I'm not giving you a graph to look and count, rise and run, that sort of stuff. So here's how we write the equation of a line if I give you 2 points on that line. First thing you need is you need slope formula. Okay, slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You need to know this formula because it's not on the formula sheet that I give you when you're taking your test. Okay, but just keep in mind, this is still rise over run. Y's are talking about up and down. X's are talking about right and left. So we're still talking about rise over run. All right, so just a reminder. In our first point, we have x and we have y, so we call those x1 and y1 because they are from the first point. Okay, in the second point, we have x2 and we have y2, and those are getting plugged in to our slope formula. So this is going to look like y2 is -8. Minus y1 is -2, over x2 is -15, minus x1 is 3. Okay, so just looking at that, you can see where common mistakes are going to be. Tons of negatives in there. We have to do minus negatives in some scenarios. So if you struggle with negatives on the test, I strongly recommend using Desmos to make sure you're not messing up these calculations. Okay, but I'm going to switch my minus and negative into a plus. Okay, so -8 plus 2 becomes -6. -15 minus 3 becomes -18. And if it can reduce, you must reduce it. So when I'm looking at this, I see negative over negative is going to turn to a positive. 6 goes into 6 once, and a 6 goes into 18 3 times. So I now know my slope is positive 1/3. Okay, I still need my y-intercept. I can't just look at the graph and figure it out at this point, so I'm going to show you how to find it algebraically. Your Algebra 1 teachers may have taught you point-slope form, if you remember that. I don't like teaching point-slope form because it's another formula you have to memorize. Instead, I use slope-intercept form because it's the formula that everyone in here knows. No one forgets y equals mx plus b. Everybody does forget point-slope form, so we're just going to use y equals mx plus b. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. Here's how we use y equals mx plus b to find the y-intercept. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in stuff for y, m, and x, Because if I plug in numbers for all of those, and the only variable I have is b, then I can do a little bit of simplifying and get an answer that says b equals whatever, and I'll know what my y-intercept is. Okay, so m is pretty obvious. I just found out that m is 1/3, so I'm going to plug that in here. Okay, x and y come from any point on the line. Okay, at this point in time, we know 2 points on the line, correct? We know 3, -2, and we know -15, -8. So if I have my choice between those two, I'm obviously going to pick the easier one and go with 3, -2. But you would still get the same answer if you picked the other point. You would get the same answer if you picked any point on the line. Okay, so my x is 3. I'm going to plug that in here. My y is -2. I'm going to plug that in over here. And then I've got plus b. So I've just created an equation where I can solve for b and figure out what it's going to equal. Okay, a couple steps. I've got to do 1/3 times 3. So I'm going to put my 3 over 1 and multiply straight across. 3 on top, 3 on bottom is going to simplify to just be 1. Okay, I need b by itself, so I'm going to do -1 on both sides. So I've got b equals -3. I feel done. I feel accomplished, like I just did a bunch of math. Everything's good. But a big problem in this standard is a lot of people don't ever answer the question. The question is telling me to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. I have not done that yet. I found everything I need, I just haven't written it in slope-intercept form yet. So off to the side here, I'm just going to write y equals, my slope was 1/3, x, and my y-intercept was -3. Now I'm finished. Any questions?
Don't take the time.
Got to kill a little bit of time so one of my students can finish copying down. And this is going to help us get to the 10-minute mark. I'll scroll back up later. All right, example 3. Just so you know, example 3 is going to be the one that whenever we're doing this throughout the year and I'm bringing these problems back, this is going to be the one you guys come to me and ask me about, because this is the one you guys all forget. Even the people that don't like copying down the notes because you have access to them on Teams, I do want you to write one thing down. This is the #1 thing people forget in this problem. Oops, I think I spelled that wrong. I think there's one R. Parallel, yeah, I think it looks like that. Parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, that's one thing you need to know. Parallel lines all have the same slope. Okay, perpendicular lines all have what I call opposite reciprocal slope. Okay, so if you see opposite reciprocal, opposite referring to it's the opposite sign. Reciprocal, you guys know what that means where we're flipping our fraction. So if I told you that there was an equation of y equals 2/3 x plus 7 and another equation of y equals -3 over 2x minus 14, because that slope is flipped and one's positive and one's negative, I know that those two lines are perpendicular. Okay? So let's double check what this is saying. It says write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form when given the following information. We know that the line is going to pass through this point 4, -5. And we know that it's going to be perpendicular to this line, -4x plus 2y equals -12. I just want to be clear here. I really do not care about this other line, this -4x plus 2y equals -12. I am just going to use it for a minute to figure out what its slope is. And once I have its slope, then I'm going to use it for my line, and I can ignore that -4x plus 2y equals -12 forever. I will never need it again. Okay? But I do need to know its slope. All right, so I'm going to start over here. Does anybody remember what form this is currently in? What it's called? Standard form. Okay, so it's currently in standard form. You can't see the slope when it's in standard form. So in order to figure out its slope, I'm going to switch it to the slope-intercept form. So hopefully you did this 1,000 times in algebra, but I'm going to start by moving this entire x term over here, plus 4x on both sides. Okay, so I've got 2y equals positive 4x minus 12. Those are not like terms, so I can't combine them. One's a constant, one is a variable. I write the x term in front because that's what slope-intercept form looks like. Okay, and then the last part here is I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I've got y equals 2x minus 6. But all I really care about in this equation is this 2. That is the slope of that line. The only reason I did that work was so that I could see the slope of this line is 2. Now, since I know my line, I know that my line is perpendicular to this line, I'm going to do reciprocal. I'm going to flip it to make it 1/2. And I'm going to change the sign. Since this is positive, I'm going to get negative. So my slope is going to be negative 1/2 because it's perpendicular to this line. Now all of this work that I just did over here to the left, I don't care about anymore. I'm done with that. I don't care about this equation anymore. Okay? So right now I have my slope. I need my y-intercept. I'm going to find it the same way we did before. I'm going to use slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. Okay, I know that my m is negative 1/2. I just plugged that in. My x and my y come from a point on the line, but at this point I only know one point on my line, correct? Mm-hmm. It is 4, negative 5. So x is 4. That's going to get plugged in here. Negative 5 is y. That's going back here, and I have plus b left. All right, so now if I just solve for b, I'll be just about done. Negative 1/2 times 4, put 4 over 1, go straight across. I get negative 4 over 2, which is going to turn into negative 2. Okay, now I'm going to add 2 to both sides so I can solve for b. And I've got that b equals negative 3. And again, I feel accomplished, I feel done, but I've not answered the question yet because I have not written the equation yet. So last step over here, I'm just going to write y equals, my slope was negative 1/2 x, and my y-intercept was minus 3. That is it.